Okay, so in this lesson we are going to talk about how to multiply and divide a polynomial by a monomial. So the difference between this and the last lesson is that now we have variables multiplying variables. Instead of just numbers multiplying numbers, we have variables involved. Because a monomial can be something like 3x or negative 2x. So we didn't see that last time, but the same principle applies where we need to use the distributive property to multiply the term on the outside, or the monomial on the outside, and it has to multiply into all of the terms inside the brackets. But first, let me show you how to multiply variables and what that looks like. So I'll give you a few examples here. So example 1, what do we get when we multiply x times x? So x times x is not 2x, because that would be adding, but x times x actually is x squared. And the reason why is, remember when we were doing our unit on exponents, when you have the same base and you're multiplying, you add the exponents. So each of these has an exponent of 1, so 1 plus 1 is 2. But anyways, all you need to know is x times x is x squared. But now what happens if we add some coefficients in front? So example, we have something like 3x times 2x. So the key part here is we multiply our numbers together. So 3 times 2 is 6. And we multiply our x's together, which is x squared. So key thing here is you're multiplying coefficients together, and then you're multiplying letters together. You can't multiply letters and numbers separately. You need to simply multiply the letters together and then the numbers together. So another example, if I give you negative 2x times 3x. Well, negative 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. And then again, x times x is x squared. And last example here, if we have both negatives, so you have negative 3x times negative 2x, what I'm going to get there is negative 6, actually positive 6, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So that's positive 6, negative 3 times negative 2, and then x times x is x squared. So I'm going to write a little note here. Multiply numbers with numbers. And multiply variables with variables. So that's how we multiply variables. So here are some examples of how we multiply a monomial, which is the 2x, to a polynomial, which is 3x plus 4. So what this is saying is 2x times 3x plus 4. So same thing with constants. The 2x is going to multiply to both the 3x and the 4x. So what this looks like is 2x times 3x plus 2x times 4. So if you remember from last video, or not last video, the first section of these notes, we multiply numbers with numbers and then letters with letters. So we have 2 times 3, which is 6, then x times x is x squared. So that's 6x squared, plus here we just multiply numbers with numbers, and the other term doesn't have an x. So this is simply 8x. And that's it for that example. And we'll do the same thing to this one. This is going to multiply to negative 3x and to positive 4. So what this looks like is negative 2x times negative 3x plus negative 2x times 4. So again, multiply numbers with numbers. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And then we have x's in both, so x times x is x squared. Negative 2 times 4 is negative 8, and we have a single x there. So that's how you multiply a monomial to a binomial. Okay, so we talked about how to multiply polynomials by a monomial. Now we're going to talk about how to divide these. So dividing, this process is the same as when we were doing with a constant. So you take each term in the numerator and we divide it by the term in the denominator. So I want to show you a few examples on how to divide variables. So for example, if I have x squared divided by x squared, I am going to get 1. And the reason why is, if you remember from our exponents unit, when the base is the same, all we do is subtract the exponents. So my x is my base and they're the same, so I subtract my exponents, which means 2 minus 2 is 0, so x to the 0 is equal to 1. So that's why that is. If I have x squared divided by x, I'm going to be left with x to the 1. Or also what this looks like is x squared is really x times x divided by x. And whatever you have on top, that's the same as the bottom. We can cancel those out, so I have x left. Okay? And lastly, if I have x divided by x, again, that's also 1. Whenever you have the same exact term on top and bottom, they cancel out and they equal 1. So remember these little tricks when you are dividing variables. And we'll go through a couple examples now. Here are a few examples of dividing a polynomial by a monomial. So we have in example A, we have a monomial dividing by a monomial. So key thing here again is divide numbers with numbers and divide variables with variables. So on top I have 10 or negative 10, and the bottom I have 2. So I'm going to do 10 divided by 2, which is negative 5 m. And that's my answer. Because my m squared divided by m ends up being 1. And for b, what I need to do is I got to split this up. So I got to take each term on top, and I got to divide it by the term on the bottom. Plus, that's minus 18k divided by negative 6k. So all I did was I took each term on top and divided it by the term on the bottom. So now I'm going to divide numbers with numbers and letters with letters. So 30 divided by negative 6 is negative 5. K squared divided by k is, I'm left with a single k. Negative 18 divided by negative 6 is positive 3. And k divided by k, they cancel out. So I don't have anything left there. So it's just plus 3. So those are my answers. Let me know if you have any questions. But key thing to remember is when dividing, you need to divide each term on top by the term on the bottom. And then when dividing by variables, you need to divide numbers with numbers and variables with variables. And just make sure you remember how to divide those variables. And that's it.